Joining us today. We have really a good panel here to talk about cybersecurity. We have people from products who understand the products. We also have practitioners. We also have people from academia, and we actually have people who do both, who are both academics as well as practitioners. So I think this is quite an interesting panel for discussion today. Our topic is managing cybersecurity, both from a perspective of corporates, companies, public institutions like hospitals, and also from an understanding from a product perspective. So I know you actually said I wouldn't start with you, so I wouldn't start with you. So I'll start actually with Eric today. So Eric, as you know, is the Chief Security Officer of Spital Zurich, but he was also with a bank, so he actually understands quite a lot about cybersecurity. So Eric, my question first to you would be, why would you need cybersecurity in a university hospital? And why did you actually join hospital in the first place?
Yeah. So I started in the hospital at 2018 as CISO. Back in these days, we had still assumption that hospitals were not attacked by cyber criminals because they have some ethics. But during the pandemic, more and more hospitals get attacked. And if a hospital gets victim of a cyber attack, it's not only about physical harm, it's not only about economic damage, it's also about physical harm, so people could be hurt or even die because of a cyber attack. And during the pandemic, more and more hospitals get attacked all over Europe and all over the world. And so cybersecurity became more and more important, and we had really to do something to further strengthen our security to ensure that we will not be victim of a cyber attack.
Right. So tell us a little bit more about your journey. Because when you started, did you have to start anything from scratch? How did you plan about going? What is the first things to be done, and what are the next things to be done?
So we already had a pretty good security, but we decided to further strengthen the security. But we also had a focus on detection and response capacities, because we had the assumption that sooner or later we could be victim of a cyber attack, or a cyber attack could happen, so we had to prepare. We had to be able to detect it, to act against. So response and detection came more and more important. And then we thought, okay, what can we do? What would be a good solution for a university hospital? We looked at some CM systems with central lock, like Splunk or other systems, but we also looked at network detection and response systems. And at the end, we decided that we have somehow both in place, because on one hand, we need a central lock to be able to do forensic and research and all this kind of stuff. And on the other hand, we have also to have a network detection solution in place, because we can only, over the network, we can cover all the medical devices, or all the OT devices, which are also part of the security environment. So most of our medical devices are today connected to network, and depending on the digital infrastructure, on the IT infrastructure. So if the IT infrastructure is attacked, it affects also the medical devices and vice versa. So you can't separate this anymore totally. So that's why we had also to cover the network. And then at the end, we also decided we have to have some endpoint detection response solution in place, because the endpoint is still the first point of entry of a cyber attack, or most likely. That's why we covered all this and integrated all this in a SOC. And regarding the SOC, we decided to have a hybrid SOC in place, so to have our own people which know the hospital, which know the systems and the dependencies, but have also external people which support us to cover the SOC 24/7.
Right, Thank you. So I want to take this question, since we talked about the endpoint security, to KK. KK, you have been developing products now for ages. How do you actually get the feedback? What do you know? How do you develop the right product? Because it's so complicated with so many different companies. What's your magic potion here?
I think there's no concept of magic here. And I think if you go back and look at the cyber value chain, either you have been attacked, you are being attacked, or you will be attacked. It's a continuous loop cycle. The best form of security is plug the Ethernet cable out from the data center top of the rack, and you're secured. I think that way there is no other form, and that way there's still air gap exist in some part of environment. So coming back to, I think when you step back, and I think the point made about you have the network, which is one place where everything moves. That's one part. So if you really simplify this whole damn thing, we are very good collectively as an industry in complicating things too much. So if you peel the onion, go back to the bits, there is a network which is running traffic, and network primarily protocols run to move information between these pieces. And then there are endpoints. There are endpoints which consume, and there are endpoints. So there is one I call as workspace, and other is I call workload. Simple. There is workloads running in one end, there is workspace or users on the other end, and there is a network. When you simplify this whole thing from a security standpoint, then the combination becomes, okay, workplace to workload, workload to workload, workspace to workspace, but in a very simple. So when you start with building a building block, I would really look at three things. And when we started building the product, and then use an MVP and a product management approach to really look at enforcing this. One is, can I enforce policy, configuration policy and compliance from a workspace to the workload? A single engine which can look at a mobile device, a desktop, a server, a container, on cloud, on-prem, doesn't matter. That's one. And the second is, can I understand the entire DevSecOps lifecycle of what is being deployed into the workload? If you really look at these two things, everything else then starts, okay, now what do I do for XDR? What do I do for EDR? What do I do for logging? What do I do for SOAR? All those things starts to come in. But if you really simplify, customers have to really understand that if you invest on network security, and if you start looking at that piece, the network, the endpoint, and the workload, rest everything will start to fall in place rather than doing patchwork. And we learn a lot. Every customer interaction is a product management input. We put everything into our AHA portal. From there it comes to backlog. People pick in to build stuff, but then that's how we continue to iterate. You'll never be perfect. If someone thinks you have a perfect security product, absolutely wrong. It's a continuously evolving space. You have to improve every day.
Thanks, KK. So now we talked about two parts. We had a practitioner's experience of what it's done, product, in terms of how the product's been done. But product needs to be deployed. That requires skills. So we have Bernard here. He has been we call him the lead for cybersecurity. Actually, he's the father of cybersecurity in Switzerland, because Hochschule Luzern has been known, or University of Lucerne has been known for setting up cybersecurity and training students, not just students actually, making them aware of what is cybersecurity in real life. So Bernard, my question to you is, given cybersecurity is not something that's a single word, you just heard KK, you heard so many different terms being thrown by Eric as well, where we are talking about different aspects. So you need application security, you need a SOC, you need a SOC analyst, and it's very tough to actually talk about all of those skills together. How do you build out those many number of skills when you know that we don't even have that many number of people?
So but let me first give a statement to the size of the challenge. Who in the room would be afraid if the American military goes after you?
Yeah, I guess everyone would.
Everyone, yes. Imagine that somebody has 12 to 15 times more budget than the American military. Would you be scared?
Yes.
And who is this? This is the total amount in the cyber security incidents which is earned by the criminals in 2025. 12 billion US dollar. So when you have the size, you can also make how much can a state put in defense and how much the other side can put in the offense. So when we discuss about AI, the research budget of the criminal organization is definitely in a other order of magnitude than the one of the defender. And of course, with several company constructs, they can make that they even pay research at universities and get the best brains. So be aware, we don't talk anymore about something neglectable. We talk about something which really is the big lion in front of your hole, and don't aggravate him and go out only if he's away. And this is about cybersecurity. So then the question is how to educate all aspects. We were preparing in 2018 a proposal for a Bachelor of Information and Cybersecurity, and I could be the leader and started in autumn 2018 the program. And we educate 6,000 hours, the students. So they have to invest 6,000 hours in learning. And 85% is cybersecurity only. So more than 5,000 hours of education. And we have fine-grained security courses for nearly everything. And in the last year, we have 5 specialization areas. This is information security management, information security technology, the defense mechanism, then incident response and digital forensics, then offensive security, and last, cloud and mobile security. And they have all 12 courses, and 8 must be taken that they get this specialization in their testimony. So we are, I think, really good. I was in a meeting last week, we met as well, and there was already 6 of our students, the first have made the degree in 2023, and already 6 of the students were there as CISO. So these competencies are really well looked after. And last year we started to make a proposal for a Master of Science in Information and Cybersecurity. Another 120 credits, another 4,000 hours of education. But when we looked in technology, we go an abstraction level higher, but we educate there in technology, and we educate leadership, communication. How do I unlock situations with the management, and how do I go for budget and things like that? And in this respect, I think we cover very, very well nearly everything. Also, the couple which should marry already a long time, security and software development. I was asking our computer science department for 15 years to integrate secure software development in the curriculum. They didn't do, and nobody did in Switzerland. Actually, we were also ETH master, asking how many of the Sun's top 25 incidents they learned to mitigate in their studies. It was 3 in average. 10 assistants we asked. So nobody cared for this. And we have now courses on secure software development, but it needed time to create things like that. And when we see that those software engineers have worked now 15 years and created software without any security specification, I don't think that they had make a sign-off for secure software. So my wish is that your topic security and your topic software will marry also in secure software development and secure software detection, any vulnerabilities and so on. This would be a great great thing.
Thank
Master will start September this year. So if somebody has interest, you can drop me a line, or I mean probably not you, but your kids or your uncles or whatever. Yeah.
This is good. I would come to you, KK, back later on for.
I just wanted one
DevSecOps.
comment is that 10,000, I just calculating, you did 6 and 4, 10,000 hours. The 10,000 is a magic number if you want to really start, let's just say, if you are a good tennis player, if you played one shot 10,000 times, you learn. I think really it's a very well designed course in terms of 10,000 hours of cyber.
Yeah.
There are 2 studies, probably a lot of people are aware of the WEF study about the shortage of cybersecurity professionally in the future, which has then an impact more incidents because there are less qualified staff. But you mentioned just they already have a CISO role. There was just an article in the Swiss magazine, like 55% of CISOs will be close to a burnout just because of the 7 days, 24 hours availability, and then, right? So it's a
challenge.
Stressful, challenge.
So I'm glad we talked about the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours, so you can actually understand cybersecurity officers do not actually have a cushy life. So we talked about the practitioner's perspective, we talked about the products, we talked about skills. But then when we start going forward into an international arena, I also wanted to come to you. You actually had integrated companies from a cybersecurity perspective cross borders, which is tough because you're talking about multiple cultures, languages,
Which currency,
regulators to be integrated. So give us some dough in terms of how do we actually really manage that kind of an integration when you're managing cybersecurity, especially in the context of multinationals and large companies.
So
they are the primary people that we work with.
So when I came into my last company, AXA, they made a lot of acquisition, and they left them. So just keep them, nobody will be disturbed, right? And then we got a new group chief security officer, American. He said, no. We have a mandate to secure the company. We cannot leave them by themselves, right? And first he started with a mission statement, right? What's our mission? And he got the buy-in by the CEO, right? And this included also finance, because you can be as smart, technology does what it does, but if you don't have the finance, you cannot do it, right? So we implemented a new target operating model with a clear mandate from the group CEO, right? That we said, first of all, to who reports security, right? So it will not report into the CIO, not into IT, right? So some then report CEO, chief risk officer, and so on. But we wanted to get this conflict of interest, time to market and security, getting out of that one, right? We even went further. We say we had a CISO role. We go into chief security officer. I think you have it too. Also physical security, health and safety, right? Also covering this one because you have already ticketing system for incidents, and if you have a stolen laptop or whatsoever, also supports this one. We clearly mandated what they need to spend on IT. Right? We said like 4% on your IT budget you spend on security, right? And then we had a 3-year plan of a strategy where we clearly mandated, right? You need to use group technology. We didn't want that, let's say, 60 countries look into DDoS, DLP, SIEM, and whatsoever, right? So then you have a strategy. You want to bring it out to the country, and of course they start to ignore, right? But because the local chief security officer had a dotted line, so he had a local report and to group. And we set targets. And if you set target, you define also incentive, bonus, right? And the whole stuff of we don't have the money, we have other priority, goes away. You align them. And you have then clearly reporting mechanism where you see, okay, the vulnerability per service goes down, the ISO maturity goes up, DLP is deployed, and so on. We had like a race. Every year we had a mountain race, a boat race, where you compare Spain with Italy, with Germany, with Switzerland. It's pretty interesting to see. Even CEO gets involved because you report on a monthly basis. Why my boat is behind the German, right? Switzerland should be actually in front of the German, right? So we really had a success story by not actually the strategy, it's the target operating model. Who reports to who makes the performance review, who decides how much money will be spent on technology and so on.
Right. So from reporting, and I'll take a thread from reporting, I'll take a thread from DevSecOps that you mentioned and come back to you, KK, on that. We have done pretty much what most companies have talked about. Even with Eric, you heard that the security was good, he made it better, he had a SOC. But with applications, we are now turning into a really complex area. Bernard talked about the fact that we don't even know how good those applications were because they were not talked about integrating DevSecOps. And we, of course, do not have reporting on applications. What's your thought on DevSecOps and which direction should it actually entail for application security?
See, if you look at the whole evolution of DevOps, the word sec, and to your point, came in as an afterthought, even in the industry, correct? And then there is this whole sec DevOps culture. I would say 90% or 95% of all applications were never developed with secure SDLC thought process. It was always a band-aid out. Security was always a production problem. So when you look at the way we see the world, is we have policy and compliance enforcement in production from the workload to the workspace, and then you integrate into the network. But what gets deployed has to be thought before. So the way we look at our whole space is this space has become highly fragmented. So people have a lot of point tools. So they have one tool for IAST, one tool for DAST, one tool for software supply chain, one for SCA, they'll have one for remedy. So what's happening is, and the example you talked about, in development it's even more fragmented. In production, at least you can enforce a mandate. The developer would say, oh, why I am using X language, I'll shove this in, I like to code in this. And then what really happened is DevSecOps became a developer topic, and somehow the CISO started to lose control over a development life chain because the business says, I need to go fast, I have to ship code to production. The CISO is a very troublemaker. He or she is causing all kinds of troubles, correct? Putting this compliance, this and that, and they're finding ways and means to circumvent, or they will do minimal viable checklist to get through the release, and they say, I'll fix it in the next backlog, correct? So that shift needs to happen is how do you empower developers to think secure while starting to open the IDE when they're starting the first line of code to the whole pipeline lifecycle. We have a point of view as HCLSoftware that you need to look at application security as a platform, and you plug in whatever engines you have, and then you have an ecosystem of partners who can all be plugged in, but it has to be seen a little bit more holistic. Because if you look at them in silos, you'll create more disparity. So that's our point of view on DevSecOps, but I think we need to empower the CISO more on the DevSecOps than the developers.
Yeah. No, I think I totally agree with you. And one thing is good, security is sexy, right? It's really sexy. And what we saw in our firm, that developers, they like to go into security. And so we started actually with security champions, right? That they know what's OWASP top 10. And that they don't get into the problem time to market. Oh, first I need to fix it. And you can even go further with threat modeling. That first actually, it's a payroll application. Don't find out when you go to market it should be encrypted or strong authentication or whatsoever, right? Starting at the beginning is threat modeling, educate developers, provide them with the remediation help. The tool, they can run the tool automatically, but the remediation, how to change the code, there they need a lot of hand-holding.
What KK mentioned is that we at the University Hospital at the very beginning of development of software, but still the problem that first is functionality and then time to market. And security could be just something which is disturbing, or that's why I'm convinced that as a CISO you have to be an enabler.
Yep.
And you have bring the both together. So the like security topics has to be sexy, and people has to be involved into security. But the time to market and the functionality, it is a challenge.
So the question then to you, Eric, and I know it's the same thing that we talked about. So as KK was talking about time to market, and you explained that, but you first implemented the SOC, and now you're looking at implementing DevSecOps in your organization. So tell me, is this the standard way a practitioner should approach? So that's question number one. And question number two is, given the challenges we talked about in terms of getting acceptances from the rest of the organization, how hard was it for you to convince everyone in the organization, including the CIO, that we need to go for DevSecOps now?
Yeah, maybe first of all, I believe that security has always the aim to enable the business. Security, it's not for himself. Security, the purpose of security is that the business can proceed as business, or we in a hospital can treat patients. That's the purpose of security. So and security is always risk management. So it's not white or black. It's you have to have chances, opportunities, risk, costs, and you have to deal with everything and to prioritize. And our focus was on detection response, building up cyber emergency response capacities, plans, exercise, and so on. And the development topic was not so urgent for us because we did early development of software. We buy software usually, we didn't deploy it. But now more and more we deploy software in research purposes, but also for healthcare purposes. So it becomes more and more important, and it's at the end it's about a common security culture to involve the people and explain them and convince them that security matters and security is important, and to make them responsible and force them also to commit what they can do to further secure the software and the whole hospital, because at the end it's about the security of the patients. That's all about it.
Yeah. So then in that case, I come to you, Bernard, for a question about this. DevSecOps, now that, so it was already there in a large corporation, yes, fragmented, but still there as a requirement. Once new software is being developed or deployed, as Eric says, then you need DevSecOps. In your perspective, if we need to have more skilled resources as a corporation, what advice would you give to build more resources? Should we actually have a lab in University of Lucerne where they can test out on the software, application security testing that gives us the skills of who can become application security testers? Because as KK said, there are so many different kinds of application security testing.
I think everything starts in the very first moment. If you have a program specification and you don't have a security specification, everything else is not of big value. So whenever you make a software, define what are the security requirements and define testing at the end, how to test whether these are implemented. So at the end, when you make DevSecOps, then you should run the test before release. But I know this is not made, and when I was asking people at Amazon promoting DevSecOps, they said, we know that we can fail, but we fail fast and recover fast. And last July, we learned from CrowdStrike, fail fast, 2 hours they had the solution, but they couldn't distribute it easily because physically the machine had to be rebooted, and it took around 3 months. So it's not that easy with the automatic software distribution, and I warn people to be reluctant in incorporating security in these late phases and distribution. Probably you can say.
KK, exactly. What do you think at that point of
So I would say the way we look at this, and something which some of the pedigree from where our security research team, we strongly believe that the moment you have specs of what you're building, the moment you open an IDE, there has to be a plugin when you start to write lines of code or when you generate lines of code these days with Gen AI, you should be the SAST plugin should be looking at what's being done and checking against specs while you are even building the code. And the fact is, people think writing code is a science. It's an art. Artists have different styles, and that's how developer thinks of themselves as artists, not as scientists. Correct? They believe that then in that whole process, if you really see, and I see Guillaume here, Xenia is an absolutely interesting example. They push software code every day to production. They have on-off switches, but the gating criteria is security. If it is not secure, they don't push it. So it's like a voting, like a peer this thing model. We're starting to see that even if you are super fast in delivery of this thing, it depends upon in that balance model, security, cost, agility. Would you give some veto power to one entity? Who is that? I would say, to your perspective, if security is equal to business imperative, you need to give your CISO some level, someone to come and tell the CEO and the head of the business saying that, hey, there is a risk. Finally, it's managing risk, but making that decision aware so that there could be a veto power. Because the last thing you would want to do is release it. And to come back to the CrowdStrike example, correct? It was not, looking at the CrowdStrike, this thing, surprisingly, you need to have endpoint policy compliance and configuration capability, which could not just do traditional OS, but could do bare metal. So agent technologies which could do remote assisted reboot of those PCs, those customers recovered because you had to store the BitLocker keys and you could ship them back and install it back. If you didn't, the issue was people had to physically go and plug in and build the machines out. And I absolutely agree that if you think secure coding at SAST, IAST, DAST, everything baked into while you're building, so the code is getting to the CI/CD pipeline, it's going through security checks in the pipeline, which means that the developer is seeing incremental value. So that's what I would say. It's a mindset change. We all have to push and encourage them to do that.
Yeah, but just maybe the CIO, right? Before it was testing, now you say DAST, SAST, IAST, pen test, red team, and, right? For him, every year more comes, right? And there, it's really, you have different technology, you have different skill sets to remediate, right? And there is really, I don't know, you have the magic tool where you can go to the CIO, there's one tool, and...
I would say there is no one tool, but yes, there is a couple of platforms globally, which is one platform which has multiple engines which can scan, and for remediation, some could be fixed using that, or you could use other methods to fix. See, the challenge is visibility. Knowing what's the issue. You get an IAST report, can you correlate it with the DAST report? Or else the IAST guys looked at something, okay, I know how to fix this, but when you there could be even ways in production, you can temporarily do some configuration in WAF, in proxy, in other places, knowing that I can lock these pieces till I run a new release of the... It's about this 360-degree awareness, which is what is missing. We are attempting something. One of our DevSecOps platform, ASOC, walks the path. We are in the journey. We bring multiple engines together, and where we don't have our engines, we've got an ecosystem partner plugin engines, which basically does that. But we will maybe do 70% visibility. But that's better than having 6 separate visibilities. Our vision is to see if can we keep pushing closer and closer. Now I've got new challenges with customers are asking, okay, human code versus machine code generated SAST. What came in through a copilot versus what came in. Now go and show me the source of where this code got generated, and I want to apply different, because nowadays this whole, everyone wants to use ChatGPT and OpenAI and Gemini to write code. But then the question is, can you also differentiate human-generated code versus machine-generated code? And then be able to, it's a continuous problem. Every time we thought we've reached somewhere, I've got new things spawning up.
So that's actually a good segue to start talking about the most important issues that we are facing now in writing code, which is use of AI and the impact on cybersecurity using AI, in particular about writing code, also about this. So you're right, KK, using Claude.ai or some of those tools to write code is becoming standard. In fact, there are companies now that have actually completely moved to having AI to write code. There's a translation company which has been actually using that actively. The question is now, from that practitioner's perspective, if you would be a C, which you are actually, you are at the security level, how do you create gateways for managing AI when it comes to, well, code writing is one aspect, but all the other aspects of cybersecurity, including endpoint security. So how do you start managing it? So what's your thoughts on that? So probably I would start with you, Eric, because again, you've been also the docent here, so you've been teaching a lot of cybersecurity courses. So what is it that your thoughts are when it comes to AI?
So I think not only for AI, but in general, three things are very, very important. It's communication on all levels, and having awareness and transparency. Then having a segregation of duties between CISO, security, and IT. And the third one is integrated security. It's not only technical security, but also organization security, process security, physical security, because today in a digital world, everything goes into each other. So you have to have a holistic view on security and including cybersecurity. Based on that, regarding usage of AI, awareness, knowledge, transparency is important, and that the people, not only the users, but also that the coders are aware how to use generated AI, what is the source of the code, what is behind the code, what is the purpose, how can they test the purpose, how can they ensure security, and which technical measures are in place to support them, to ensure all this quality and the quality and the security of the code which is developed or consumed or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And Bernard, from your understanding, how do you teach students now to start preparing for the AI world, given the fact that it's quite different from a cybersecurity perspective? Earlier, it was fairly simple. Cybersecurity used to be no different what it was 500 years back. If you look at Tower of London, the design of Tower of London, and look at a standard cybersecurity design, it's like that. You have an outer wall, which is like a perimeter security, and then an inside wall, and then for every special things, you have crown jewels protection, so you create more guards around granary, more guards around armory. So cybersecurity 500 years back is roughly translated to the real world. But now with AI, what are the challenges that you're seeing?
I think that we have, as we do discuss 15 years, to rethink perimeter. Perimeter has nearly no meaning anymore. So, of course, we still have the corporate firewall. This is mandatory and useful, and we have still malware protection at the entrance of the internet point. But it is not sufficient, because you can work here, you can work everywhere. And what are the things which are remaining? First, endpoint to endpoint. That's the thing you can secure. And second, the identity. We go as far in discussions, is the identity the new perimeter? So where we have identity-based perimeter action and can allow or disallow traffic and so on. This would be probably also a good idea, and we have to think today not in a corporate model with the data center. We have to think not as a corporate model with cloud. We have to think as a corporate model with a data center and with multiple cloud. So the question is how you can shift within cloud back and forward, and how you can lateral movement as an attacker between the clouds. And we are doing research now exactly in this area.
So KK, to you, from a product development perspective, do you perceive AI as a threat or as an opportunity or both?
So let me I want to answer one important point, I think. So as HCLSoftware, or CISO Adam, correct, and his whole, what we've walked the path is we've realized that as the patterns in the organizations are becoming so complex, we've moved towards this concept called a zero trust, where we've said identity, devices, and workloads. So what we've done is we've got 3 identity, paradigms within HCLSoftware. One is what we call HCL.software, which is basically, in our case, everyone in the company has an HCL.software identity. That identity is where you as an individual, and that's where role, access, and things. We've got the second identity for our customers, because as more and more we move to cloud and SaaS, we call them HCL.cloud. So which means all our customers get an ID when they subscribe to a product which is on cloud or SaaS, and they get HCL.cloud. That's the second paradigm. And the third paradigm is the collaboration paradigm, which is what we call as HCL-software. So what we've done is we've gone to a model. I'm getting rid of pretty much Wi-Fi, routers, WAN in most of my offices. The goal is public business broadband internet. You plug in the device. I've got a big fix agent, a DLP, and an endpoint XDR engine. That's it. And you come up into this thing, I don't trust you. You have to come and prove to access a workload who you are. Why do you need access to it? Or else every device which connects is seen as a external, non-trustable device. In that way, what's happened is we've inverted the problem, because in my case, I don't need firewalls. What I need is workload protection, and some are in cloud, some are in Azure, some are in AWS, some in Google, some in my data center. So hence, we're moving towards that paradigm. And obviously, I still have mainframes and other stuff which still need the classic security, but I think mainframe is the most secure system of all, by the way. If you really look at what that thing runs, it's absolutely secure. You can't do anything in that box. If you think of that was a security zero trust model built in 1960s. So I think that's what we're trying to address, and I think you're talking the right thing, is walk the path where you don't trust anyone, and then you protect and give them secure access to. I don't think AI is a threat for an ISV if you use the wisdom of AI right and adopt it. Mm-hmm. For us, if you look at a software, one of the things which if you note, if you're a software product company, you will always keep the best talent in the core product group within the company so that you could build new stuff. AI is an augmentation for us to improve velocity. So end of the day, if you're an ISV, if you could use AI to generate more velocity in your product, you do not need, there's an anti-paradigm is when you go to enterprise IT, it's got volume of people. In product business, you need lesser, smarter people. It's absolutely this thing. The lesser, but people who can do more, correct? You cannot have a crowd. You can't have 1,000 people building products. I think good products can be built with 30, 60, 100 people, max. You don't need. And you can have very, very complex products which can be modularized and broken. However, AI can become differentiator. So can you embed AI capability? Can you infuse AI? Can you extend AI? Can you plug in AI and different capabilities into the ecosystem and really start to do that? So I think if you do nothing, inertia is the biggest danger for any software product company. If you do nothing, someone is going to come and overtake you. But if you adopt and embrace in the journey, incumbency also has an advantage. If you've been there, customers build your trust, but you have to keep delivering value. You have to earn your value every day. That's how I really see this. It's a big advantage if used right.
So I'll ask the same question to you, Eric. From a hospital perspective, AI threat or opportunity?
What makes me most afraid regarding AI is the possibility or capacity to doing deep fakes in videos or calls, or you can manipulate people, companies, or even societies. And that's what makes me most afraid, that you don't not how or what you should trust when you see it or hear it, or you can even manipulate, like in APEC, you can manipulate EXP or board calls and force someone to send millions or to make a payment of millions, and all the participants were avatars, were fake people. So this this is what make me most afraid of AI. But I agree to the other things which were mentioned. But
wisdom, I would say, it's like, and Swiss, you have pedigree and you've seen things, correct? Nuclear technology is so good used in the right way. Used in the wrong way, it can create doom. AI is somewhere in that space. It's inevitable. You have to use it. The question is, use it in the right way. That's what guardrails have to be put in. Absolutely, yes.
On that note, I guess I'll open the floor to the audience.
Dr. Bernard has a point of view.
Sure.
Yes, so we initiated some studies about this, and we had also last CISA summit the topic, is the defender better off or the attacker? And budget-wise, we cleared this in my intro. Mm-hmm. So it's clearly that the defender have much more money available. And clever use of AI can make, for sure, products more safe. But it could be also an option that systematically AI is tricked out by a lot of misconception feeding and misinformation, as Eric said. And this is for sure a major concern. And then the question is, AI as a detection mechanism or AI as detection and reaction automatically? How much we should allow this? That, I mean, in the military it's clear the non-military people ask for human interaction before you attack something, but the new planes are designed that they recognize something and neutralize the targets without any human interaction. So we really have to think about where all this leads, and at the end it's not defender against offender, it's AI against AI.
Yep.
Period.
On that note, any questions from the audience? Anyone would like to ask anything?
Well, we've got some activity downstairs. And you got some young, I could see some young, what do you call them, Gen Z++ or Gen, what are they, like, I don't know. People walked into the room, so maybe I'm going to hijack them also. Rajiv, you should ask them a few questions after your question. But you should first, Rajiv, you should go first, and then let them think by the time we put them in trap.
Sure. So for innovation, unstructured is a creator of innovation. Large organizations like AXA are structured. Threat creation is highly unstructured. Threat defense, on the other hand, is highly structured. So, are we in a paradigm where innovation is at a much faster pace in threat creation as against threat defense? And is there value in creating an unstructured to fight defense, to fight threat, as against continuing to fight it in a very structured way?
Professor, one of you sure got Dr. Bernard.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, the unstructured defense, right? In my case, we had an incident, and the incident was where a foreign threat law enforcement called our group CISO and say, we see something in the dark web that you have an exposure that somebody's in your network, right? And then we called it Easter egg because it was Easter vacation. So everybody was working on it. We didn't know what we were looking for because we just got from this foreign intelligence service information somebody's inside, right? And so we are very formal, right? And then we said, we don't want to work anymore on Easter egg and not looking for what we don't know. And we then teamed up with Israeli company, Threat Intelligence, where we say, we don't want to hear it from somebody else, we want to own it. We want to hear it from somebody we pay the money. It was very unstructured. because they were in the dark web, and when somebody was selling AXA data, zip file Active Directory, we wanted to buy it first to find out actually, is it AXA data? Of course, we didn't want to use our credit card, not AXA name, right? And this was this kind of maybe an example of very unstructured threat intelligence, where we were like third line. We had engaged with the first line, who is involved, who is chatting with the bad guys, and who actually could make an offer to buy the Active Directory zip file or whatsoever, right? I think sometimes if you're in the corner, you need to find kind of a way out and do the very unstructured approach, right? Not sure if this is an example.
Yep. Also, I would say you need clear structures and capacities in organizations to be able to react in an unstructured way if it's necessary. But only to react in an unstructured way, I don't think that this would really be an approach which could be managed from an organization. And the most important thing is to have a common culture within the organization, with the goal that everyone thinks also in security and act for security. And then you are also able to react unstructured. Or people even react without central knowledge because they know that's right and they can act immediately against something.
I had this thing. Large corporations want to centralize, standardize, and do everything in one way. But then what happens is, when you do that, you open the attack surface. What we are realizing is some of things which we've been doing in our product business, our security implementations, the controls, the policy, the governance are central, but how you implement is very product specific. So you can't just come into my SSO or an IAM platform and then you get access to everything. No, it's got like, it's a little bit federated by design so that you just can't break into my main SSO and then go and access into one of my sub-product areas. So we started to realize somewhere we're implementing that unstructured theme, Rajiv. It's an absolutely interesting thing, because if you have this one big centralized, you can put a big lock, but then you're asking for someone to do a full mounted frontal artillery assault on that big lock, correct? Because that's one big entry. Unless until you have a damn mainframe, which is what we've seen, that there are still large banks who still store their secrets data on the damn mainframe, because for you to get into that, it's this thing. So, yep. Yeah, I've got this. Introduce yourself. Who are you?
My name is Mittel. I go to the International School of Zug and Lucerne. Mr. Dinkel and Dr. Hammerly, you mentioned the deepfakes, AI using deepfakes, and the lack of human intervention now in the planes and fighter drones, where the AI is carrying out attacks on their own. Do you think that's a problem? And if so, what sort of solutions do you propose?
So, first of all, the problem has a name. It's collateral damage. And whether it's a problem or not, it's the judgment of the perpetrator. So how much destruction Israel takes into account in the Gaza Strip. And they were very precise and targeted. So I think when you would allow more collateral, then you can go for AI. And we know there have several in Afghanistan, several incidents where AI was identifying a target and shot it down. Better before the plane is away or shot down. So these are very delicate issues of own security against collateral and so on. But I understand from the ethical point of view that many people demand human interaction. When I would be one in the fighter jet or so, I would probably say better be safe than human interaction. So it's a conundrum. You cannot resolve it.
Yeah.
And we will more and more face systems where more and more in-depth decisions are taken from the system itself. Even when you make an application, a job application, your psychological profile is probably analyzed in parallel with the software, and you have no means to defend you against this. So the question is where we are heading as a society. Deeply ethical questions.
On that note, I think I'd have to end here because we are ending the time.
Point.
Yeah, maybe just a short answer. It's all also about automatization. For example, if we have malware on an endpoint, we can just shut it down automatically. It's not a problem. But if you have malware on a medical device and the life of a patient rely on this device, we cannot just shut it down. If an AI or automatization would just shut it down, the patient would die. So there we need the human body or the human responsibility to just take this decision. What is the bigger risk? Shut it down or not? And the other questions, there are ethical questions, yes.
I think
should be allowed and not.
The next generation, the most important thing, data trains AI. And I had the I was with Sir Tim Berners-Lee yesterday, the founder of the World Wide Web. He's building a new protocol called Solid, where he's moving the control. His view is that the future, think of is building a new HTTP, where he's saying that each one of you can choose how you want to share your data, so that would, Solid is a big, long hop, but I think the next generation has to become, every one of you has to be cyber aware, security aware. It starts with you as an individual, every one of you, and that's when this whole ecosystem will start to come up.
And I mean, if you would have an AI who would be able to kill all the bad people, the question would be who decide who are the bad people.
Yep.
So it's not easy.
Good.
So
over to you.
Thank you so much, everyone. Really appreciate your thoughts. It was great. We've got the recording. This will be on our website in the next 48 hours to maybe 72 hours, no more than that. I've got something here. I could request KK if you give it to our guest. Well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much
for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Amazing insights. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Much appreciate. Thanks.
I would invite all of us, including the panelists, to come down and join us for what we call in Switzerland as apero, which is apertes. So if you could please join us downstairs, that would be great.
Oh, lovely. Good.
Great.